Hi, welcome back to Have Roots Will Travel. If it's your first time, welcome. We are now exploring les filles mariées, which are the marriageable girls who came before les rois, and we'll be exploring the life of yet one more. These were a group of about 262 women, so we're at episode 140. So we're, I guess, over halfway there. I plan on doing all of them, like I'm doing the Filles du Roi as well. So I just think that these women were truly remarkable. And as you study their lives and you see the contributions, you'll understand why I'm so impressed by them. Before we begin, let me show you ways that you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. All that helps my logarithms or my algorithms, or I don't know. I never know what to say. And then the other ways you can help the channel is to join as a member, either 99 cents or all the different levels they have. Or you can also show your support through a super thanks for a particular episode that you like. And you can also go to my website, Have Roots Will Travel. And there's an index there as well that many of you can look up any videos I've done before of both les filles du roi and les filles mariées. And there's also a button there for PayPal to donate either one time or on an ongoing basis. So all that is so helpful, and I'm so grateful to all of you who have contributed thus far. I really appreciate your support. So let's get started and get to know our filles mariées of this episode. Today we're going to be exploring Les Filles Mariées, episode 140. Antoinette, Durand. I hope you find her interesting. I certainly did. So Antoinette was born in 1636 in the very, very historic town or city of Rouen, France. Her parents were Guillaume Durand and Marguerite Letellier. Now, Normandy is, you can see, is the region that she came from. But inside of that region, we find Seine-Maritime, which is the county, or they call it le département. And Rouen is a city with over 2,000 years of history. Originally, it was a Gaulish settlement, and then it became an important Roman town. Now, it was there during the 9th century when the Viking raid, can you imagine, the Viking raids became a key part of the Norman rule under Rollo. And Rouen is famously tied to Joan of Arc, who was tried and executed there in 1431. And the church that she would have been baptized in is a very, very historic one. It began in the 500s and 600s, obviously has been rebuilt and rebuilt. The Church of Saint Louis is very much, it was burned down in 1248 and then was rebuilt and enlarged. In the 15th and 16th century, it was the parish of the inhabitants of the castle of Rouen. And it went on back and forth, back and forth. I mean, it was added to and then subtracted from, and it endured this and endured that. And at some point after, it was not included as the church of the city of Rouen after the revolution, as so many other churches. But due to the insistence of Abbé Chef de Ville, it was returned to worship as a branch in 1829, and then it became a parish church again. And so this church has endured and thrived, and it's still here today. I would like to walk this, because here you're in the presence of true history through like 1,000 years, and what it must be like to walk through that church. So any of you who have gone, please let me know, because I'm just fascinated with Rouen. I really am. So let's have a look at Antoinette's journey to New France. She would arrive in New France sometime in 1659. So let's have a look at the fellow that she would select. The groom that she would select and who would select her, his name, Marie Duval. And he was born in 1634, yet again in Saint-Aubin, France. We're there again. His parents, Marie Duval and Catherine Dubreuil. In the 3 decades starting in 1632, a large proportion of immigrants to New France came from Perche in what has been called the Percheron immigration movement. Many Percherons were thus recruited to work in seigneuries being established along the St. Lawrence Valley. The Beauport Seigneurie, New France's first agriculturally oriented seigneurie, was granted in 1634 to Robert Giffard de Moncel by the Company of 100 Associates. While the total number of immigrants was small, Perche had a much higher rate of emigration to New France than mostly any other region of France. And if you're a French Canadian, you probably have a relative, an ancestor who is from this particular area. Names such as Côté, Boucher, Cloutier, Dion, Tremblay, Paradis, and a host of others, including Duval, mean that your essence, part of you, who you are, comes from this incredible place. And they actually have a museum. Look it up in the. I'm actually going to put it in the notes, in the show notes, so that you will be able to check out the museum. That is just phenomenal there. So we can explore it together. And so they were married September 18th, 1659, at Quebec City. They would settle at Quebec City. It is the capital of the province of Quebec. About 500,000 people live there today. It was originally named Quebec by the Algonquins, who, in their native language, meant where Quebec meant where the river narrows. It was spelled K-E-B-E-C. Quebec City lies where the St. Lawrence River narrows. Samuel de Champlain founded a French settlement here in 1608 and called it Ville de Quebec. The city walls, which he built, which surround it, still date back to this time period, so there are still remnants of that. And it's the only city north of, I think, of Mexico City that has those city walls. There's so much to see in Quebec City, but I've chosen a few things just to kind of say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what Quebec really is, Quebec City. And on the bottom left of your screen, you'll see those city walls that were built in those times. Those are the original. They didn't recreate them or anything. And then you have this on the right. This is called Le Petit Champlain, which many people regard as the first commercial district in North America. And then we have a kind of a artist or kind of AI generated image of what Quebec City might have looked like at that period. The building on the left of your screen is a restaurant called Aux Anciens Canadiens, to our old Canadians, and that house is the oldest house in Quebec. It's 1675 it dates from. And imagine having a meal there. That's one of my bucket lists. Last time I was there, I didn't get to do it. It's going to happen. I don't know when, but it will happen. Now, the middle is the Plains of Abraham. Those of you who have studied Quebec history know that it was here that the Quebec lost, in other words, and the British took over. But 100 years before that, the Plains of Abraham really were the Plains of Abraham, and Abraham Martin de l'Écossais is what he was called. That was his land. So not only can you walk that land and say, wow, this is land that they would have walked on, during this period of les filles mariées and les filles du roi, but also obviously extremely important to Quebec history. He would go on to have 2 children. Jean-Baptiste would not marry, and he would succumb to the smallpox epidemic in 1703 at the age of 43. Marie-Madeleine herself would pass away at the age of 5 years of age. Extreme tragedy. Marie was killed by the Iroquois before the 14th of July, 1661. They had been married less than 2 years. Guess where the second groom was from? Nicolas Delaunay was born in 1635 in Saint-Aubin, Durand in France. His parents are unknown. And this is the next guy. Now, did they know each other? I don't know. I don't know the circumstance. But definitely that is kind of unusual. So on August 13th, 1661, they were married. So the family would settle at Ile D'Orleans, which is located in the St. Lawrence River, just east of Quebec City. It's about a 15-minute drive across the bridge. It certainly was more challenging back then. They didn't have a bridge. But when the early settlers came here, they saw Ile D'Orleans. It really reminded them, for many of them, had been on a coast or had lived in next to the Atlantic Ocean, that sort of thing. So it had that feel of home. So it really provided this very early on. It was really like a microcosm of French Canada. And truly, most people have at least one ancestor who is part of that Ile D'Orleans experience. And now I wanted to point out to you in the middle of this picture, you have all of the different parishes that are divided. So the very first parish is Sainte Famille, because that was the first one founded, followed by Saint François, Jean, Saint Laurent, and Saint Pierre in the 1670s. And Saint Petronille was a little later than that. The church that I have a picture of, I took that picture, and it is the Church of Saint Famille. And then, of course, these are this particular one on the right is absolutely taken by me as you walk the grounds. It's just amazing. This is a stock photo of just the island, and it is really as beautiful, and I'd say even more beautiful than the pictures do it justice. You have to go there. It's just amazing. Now, in the 1666 census, we have Nicolas Delaunay. See how they spell it? He's 32. Anne is 30. They have Jean-Baptiste Delaunay, but we know that he's not Jean-Baptiste Delaunay. We know he's a Jean, and so is Marie Magdalene. And the firstborn is François Delaunay, and so he's 2 years of age. In 1667, we have Nicolas and Anne Antoinette Durand. And see, now we know that they've spelled it correctly. Will they do it for Jean-Baptiste? Nope. But they do it for Françoise and Nicolas, who's 8 months. They have one tête de bétail, that's a head of cattle, and 8 alpins valeurs, about 6 acres of land. They would go on to have 4 children. Françoise would marry Nicolas Cadret and would have 9 children, 6 of whom would leave descendants. Nicolas would marry Elisabeth Rainville, and they would have 5 children, leaving only 1 to produce descendants. Elisabeth's mother was Elisabeth Lagarpierre, a fille du roi that we featured way back in episode 160. I've posted the link. We have Pierre, who passed away without leaving any descendants at the age of 31. And then finally, we have Marie Madeleine, who married François Morvan and would have 1 child who made it to adulthood. In the 1681 census, we find Nicolas and Anne-Jean. Now, there's children, and it says Jeanne, 21. I have not been able to confirm why this is. It's possibly just a mistake, obviously. We have Nicolas, 15, Pierre, 13, and Madeleine, 10. 1 gun and 4 vitacords, 4 horned animals, about 15 alpins, about 12 acres of land. And their final days, very sad. Anne Antoinette was buried on February 15th, 1703. A little over 2 weeks later, Nicolas would follow her. Both were mostly and probably the victim of the smallpox epidemic. They were both about 67 or 68 years of age, and they had been married 41 years, and they would leave us in 1729 with 66 descendants. When I saw this and how close they were, I thought I need to publish. It's very heartbreaking when you see that they followed each other in death as well. So that is the end for them in terms of their life here on Earth. However, there are some ways that they are still honored. When you go to the island, there is a wonderful park, and it honors. It's near the museum that you would go and visit as well, at Saint Famille, the oldest parish. And this goes all the way around this particular monument, so you have all of the names, and the name of your ancestor will be listed there if they were here with land and that sort of thing. So on that, we have Nicolas Delaunay de Penguin, and he is married to Marie Antoinette Durand, so we know it's them. And the 1666 that you see here means that they established themselves on the island at 1666. So this is a forever tribute. Now I have a few of my peeps as well that I saw, and there was something like when you stand there and you see your ancestor and you see their name enshrined there, you know that they existed, they were here, and they were among the 300 pioneers that this monument is honoring. What a story. Oh my gosh. Antoinette just amazes me. And the fact that she got married and lost one child, lost her husband through a tragic, tragic event, and then remarried, moved to Ile D'Orleans, and then had a family, and a second family, and then the fact that they lived together for so long and were married, and then they would pass away, within, days of each other. I just it broke my heart when I saw that. But yet it also warmed my heart because I knew that they were together, and that is part of the strength. When you study French Canada and you study the strength of these people, you will understand that the strength comes from family, and there's no other way to say it. Their family, for good, bad, or indifferent, having been raised in a semi French Canadian family, it's all about family. So thank you, Antoinette, for creating that and creating the legacy that you left behind. You are a brave and courageous woman, and we salute you. We honor your memory, and we bless the fact that you came to us and were able to contribute what you could. We're so grateful. And I am so grateful for my patrons and supporters and subscribers. You are all wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to me and all of my efforts over the years. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I appreciate when you communicate with me or give me a thumbs up or that sort of thing. I love it all. So thank you ever so much. So until then, I will see you on the next episode, and les filles à marier. Until then, au revoir.